Welcome to the Holistic Aficionado podcast. I'm your host, Rick, and we are here to give you tips, insights, and ideas on living your best holistic life. Today, our guest is Evan Knox. He is the founder and CEO of Caffeine Marketing, which specializes in helping small and medium-sized businesses with their marketing needs. And their goal is to help their customers get more leads, get a higher return on investment, and make a bigger impact. I know that was a very brief intro, Evan. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Hey, what's up, Greg? Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I kind of want to start high level with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, more specifically about when did you get started in your marketing journey and what made you decide to start a marketing business?
Totally. So when I first got introduced into marketing was when I was 12 years old. I'm not talking like the, lawn care and all that stuff, which I was definitely doing. My grandfather owned a jewelry store here in the Atlanta area. So like diamond rings, watches, etc. And he would take me aside when I would go to work with him on the weekends, and he would teach me about what he was doing. I remember us placing an ad in the Atlanta Symphony, and he would tell me, "Hey, we're gonna have these details, and most people they don't do this, but they should do this." And I love this strategy behind that. I think that's really when that kind of started for me. But fast forward to about 4 years ago, I was working at a nonprofit in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was like part of my role was marketing, and I really enjoyed that part. And then also during that season, unfortunately, my dad had passed away, and also my grandfather was looking at retiring. And so I thought, you know what, I can't help my dad anymore because my dad was also an entrepreneur and small business owner. I can't help him anymore, and my grandfather, his it's time for his season to transition. But I can help other small business owners and entrepreneurs with this marketing skill set that I have. So that's why I decided to start caffeine marketing.
Nice. Okay. And how long have you been in business exactly?
3 years and change.
Nice. And you're in your mid 20s, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep,
I'm
25.
I'm always so impressed. I'm 28. I'm always so impressed by
Yeah.
young entrepreneurs. A lot of our listeners happen to be young entrepreneurs that are either just starting out or have like a full-fledged business. So I'm sure they'll get a lot out of this show today. So can you talk about specifically your company and some of the services that you offer?
Yeah. So our whole goal is to make marketing profitable for small companies that are doing less than $25 million a year in annual revenue. Now, the nuts and bolts of how we do that, it pretty much always involves using this thing called StoryBrand. So I'm a StoryBrand certified guide. It's a 7-part framework created by this guy named Donald Miller out of Nashville, Tennessee. And what it does is it uses the 7 principles of story in order to turn your messaging to not make you the hero of the story, but your customer the hero of the story. And ultimately, it's going to engage your customers so that they want to buy your product. So we always use that story brand process in our marketing, but the nuts and bolts might look like of how we do that. It starts with strategy, but then ultimately it's going to, it might incorporate web design. It's probably going to have some sort of ads in it. So Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, depends on the client. And then lastly, we're going to build out a sales funnel for them so that it's going to grow their potential customer list and their newsletter that is ultimately going to turn into customers for them through an email lead series or something like that.
Okay. And do you have an ideal customer, or do you work with pretty much anyone?
Yeah, when we first started, we specialized in a particular service, but I quickly found that small business owners really ultimately cared about growing the bottom line, which, obviously makes sense now that I'm in it. And so I've been able to work, fortunately, with a lot of B2B companies and B2C. And so what I mean by that is business to business and business to consumer. So a really wide variety of companies, because once you learn the principles for most B2B companies, they can transfer to other B2B companies. And once you know the B2C ones, those transfer across the board as well. So we really do work with a lot of companies. Ultimately, what we do in that first intake session, and this is not like a promo, but like in that first meeting, we're going to determine whether or not we think marketing can be profitable for the company that we would potentially work with. And like 1 out of 10 times, I don't see enough margin in their product or service. So that is important for them to have that margin or have at least a already successful business. Now, they don't have to be crushing it because that's where we're going to come in, but they do have to have some proof of concept, if that makes sense. Because some people come to us and they're like, "Hey, we can't, we don't understand. Our product's not selling, et cetera, et cetera." I I can help them, but I don't know for sure that our marketing is going to be profitable for them. So I'm a lot more hesitant to work with those people.
Absolutely. That makes sense. I kind of want to get to the nitty gritty of some of the marketing clients that you've worked with in the past. What's your experience like working with real estate investors and real estate agents? And what sort of opportunities do you see for them, especially during this time in the market with
So
marketing, of course?
yeah, the biggest advantage I think that a real estate agent could have is their messaging, because I feel like there's so many real estate agents, and as somebody who is not far off from the home buying experience, we currently live in Atlanta, and we think we're going to buy in Atlanta, but we don't know for sure. But as I explore Zillow and Realtor.com, and I'm sure that's like a heated topic. I feel like it is, but
It kind of is,
as
yeah.
yeah, I picked that up from what I read. But anyway, so as I look at this, to me, no realtor stands out. And I think in order to really stand out at the initial point of contact, is you have to have your messaging right. And what I mean by that is that you have to make sure that you're not the hero of your own marketing, like I was mentioning earlier, and that you're positioning yourself as the guide. And there's a numerous ways that you could do that. But at first, you have to talk about the problem, and you have to identify what the problem is that your potential customer is encountering. And then fast forward a few more steps, you're ultimately painting a picture of success and failure. And so we also have a property in South Georgia that we're probably looking to sell. And so I reached out to a few different people, and it was interesting to me the language that I would get back from different people. Some people were like, "I'm so qualified. I've done this many homes or whatever." And I know that there's something to how quickly you respond to those leads. I'm sure that people will talk about that all the time in real estate. But the messaging to me, I think, is where people have an opportunity, because some people were the hero of their own marketing. And I'm like, I'm not looking for somebody who thinks they're awesome. I'm looking for somebody that can help me win the day. So
Yeah.
that's the main advantage I see. And then the other one, just across the board for real estate investors, we're currently working with a private, I would, they're a private equity group, but really they're doing real estate syndicates and hotel deals. And so the messaging is still key for them there, in order for them to stand out from other multifamily investments and such. But the other thing that's going to give them a unique advantage is we're building a lead gen. So something on their website that people are willing to give their email, over for, and then a 5-part email series after that to turn these subscribers into customers. And that is really, I think, a way to also get a leg up on your competition.
Gotcha. Very good. Um, okay, so I wanted to also ask you, what sort of advice would you give to someone who is very green or fresh to their own marketing and they just didn't even know where to start? And it doesn't have to be anyone just related to the real estate field. It could be anyone in the health and wellness industry, so on and so forth. So if a person was green to that, what would you tell them is the first step that they need to make for with their marketing efforts?
Yeah, well, the first thing that comes into play here when we're talking about doing our own marketing, or when someone's doing their own marketing, is they have what's called the curse of knowledge. So if they're an expert in their field, I'm not talking about marketing per se, but like let's say they're in that health and wellness, they're an expert at health and wellness, and so when they are talking to somebody who is potentially a client of theirs or a customer, they know that they have to dumb it down because they know all the nitty gritty of how to lose weight and how to be healthy and isometric movements, etc. And so they can't speak at that level, and they know that, and so they try to dumb it down to the potential customer or client. But they're trying to speak, at a lower level. Not that that's bad, but they bring it down to like a 5 or a 6. When in reality, people make buying decisions at a level 1 and 2. So right off the bat, you're at a disadvantage when you're doing your own marketing. That's not to say that it can be done. It just takes a lot of feedback. So if you are doing your own marketing, I would highly encourage you to get a lot of different feedback. For me, my wife is a great one because she really does not care at all about business, and doesn't really know a lot of business terms. So if I show something to her, a website that I've built, or a wireframe or whatever, and I'm showing this to her, and if she does not understand what it is, or how, if she doesn't go on the website and understand what that company is, how they're going to make their customers' lives better, and how to work with them, she can't answer those 3 questions, that means I've not done my job correctly. So getting feedback from people who are not interested at all in your business is really key. And then one more thing I'll mention around that is that you need to understand that there's brand awareness, consideration, and then conversion. And if you get those 3 phases of the marketing funnel and you understand those concepts, that people are not going to buy your product unless they're aware of you, and that there's a point in which they are aware of you, but they're considering working with you, but they're not ready to take that step yet. And then lastly, that point of conversion that you want. If you can build a funnel around that, the nuts and bolts of how you do that, it can really vary, and you can pick different tools. So at some point, Pinterest ads may be your best point, best option, or Facebook retargeting ads. But if you don't know where those fit into that marketing funnel, then you're just going to be throwing stuff on the wall, hoping something sticks, which is not going to be a way to scale your company.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely have a breadth of knowledge about marketing, and I know a lot of people will find it helpful. I'm curious to know what made you fall in love with marketing, or make it so a big part of your life that you turned it into a business. I mean, does it really kind of fall in line with the way you think, in terms of, I know a marketing person has a certain mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of explore that a little bit more?
Yeah, there's definitely different types of marketers, and I don't think that there's a right. I'm not talking qualified or unqualified, because that's one thing. Is somebody, are they competent? Can they get you a return on investment? That's not the conversation I'm thinking. But in the competent space, I believe that there are probably a math or science focused ones, and then there's also the creative ones. And so I can go into a marketing agency's website and tell pretty quickly, because the design ones, it's like this beautiful cutting edge website that is also kind of hard to navigate, but it looks amazing. Those people,
Yeah.
they're super gifted. There is completely a place in the marketing realm for them, and I'm not one of them. For me, I love the math and the strategy. So how words play together, that's super important. The layout of a website, what's going to be optimized for conversions, the strategy, can we tweak one variable at a time and make it a science experiment, so that we can ultimately see, like, can we produce the outcome that we want by tweaking one variable? Because what most entrepreneurs do that I work with, and rightfully so, they're really antsy to get started. And so I make a list of like a dozen things that we're going to do from, and they're like, let's do them right now. Well, if I change everything all at once, I won't know what was the thing that actually gave them the results. And so that's not going to be a way to actually scale. So you have to be very incremental and strategic about 7 days. Let's do this and wait. So for me, I love the math and strategy side of it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs will just kind of, they're the types that will throw things against the wall, hope it sticks, but they don't really have like a system for keeping track of what's working and what's not. And the fact that you do that, I think, has been very beneficial. And for people to know that, it's going to improve their track on what they're trying to do. How do you stay motivated? I mean, you're young, you're 25, you have this booming business, you're doing great things. How do you stay motivated, and where do you think that comes from?
The first thing, I don't necessarily struggle with motivation. I feel like maybe that's genetic. I feel like I've always just grown up with more than enough energy that I know what to do with. But for me, I always try to picture what matters 100 years from now, and that kind of keeps me grounded, because stuff that matters 100 years from now to me is going to be my faith and how I treat people, and possibly the impact that I make on those around me, or even the legacy that I leave. So all of those things ultimately really do matter. But like, if a sale goes through or if it doesn't, or if a new client comes on or they don't, none of that really is a big deal. Once you keep all of that in picture, then it doesn't matter. But then the flip side is there's this thing called an Enneagram. It's like a personality temperament thing. Some people have heard it, some haven't. But I'm an Enneagram 8, and I'm motivated by control. And so I like having, and knowing that this is a shadow that I have to manage, is that I like having control. And so if I can feel financially secure, that can be sometimes a crutch, because I don't want my, peace of mind to rest on that. I'd rather it rest on my faith. But I can tap into it when I want and go, you know what? No, I want to be completely financially free, and I want to have passive income, and I want to not have to work if I couldn't. You know what I mean? So all of those things are very motivating to me, to take care of my family and ultimately, like I said, leave a legacy and all that jazz.
Yeah, I took it's called the Enneagram test.
Enneagram. So Enneagram, I
Enneagram.
think, means 9-point diagram. So for what that's worth.
Yeah. I heard it on another podcast you were on. You mentioned it, and so I went on and I actually took it, but I have to pay for it, so I'm going to do that this morning, because
Yeah.
it only it only gave me like the score, and I think mine was a 3. So I need
Oh,
to
okay.
really it was achiever. I think that was like the main thing I remember, and then obviously the rest was blurred out. So I'm gonna find out more today. I wish I had done that last night, but it slipped my mind. So I'm really curious to see like what that means, because I think there is something to motivation. It could be somewhat genetic, but also there's ways that you can build motivation too from within.
Mhm.
I think it's about your faith, your belief, your the principles you have for yourself and your goals. Um, there's going to be a lot of young listeners listening to this who kind of think the way that we do. What advice would you give to them in terms of, you know, and I'm not just talking about like the tactical or technical advice. I'm talking about more of advice in terms of the way that they should approach their goals of becoming an entrepreneur or business owner. What sort of mindset should they have around that?
So a couple things come to mind, and one of them is probably a little overstated these days, but I really do believe it's true. Is you really should not care at all what people think. At a macro level, I feel like, especially when we're younger, we're prone to, am I getting approval from these people? What do my parents think? What's my community around me? What are they going to think? What are my parents' friends going to think? All of that stuff, I think, can be a distraction. And when you start pandering to other people's opinions, you're not going to be happy, first off, and then second, you're kind of living a lie. You're not able to like really pursue what's important to you or what you feel like you're called to. So for that, I think throw that out the window. But at the same time, listen to wise counsel. So that's also super important. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's like, don't let somebody's words weigh you down, but also give them thought and consideration. And once you can actually process that, then you can look at it for what it is. So that's the two things. And then the other one is probably like an internal or external locus of control, because there's so many things right now, especially in the current climate of the world, that we can't control. And so it would be really easy, I think, for us younger people to feel victim to that. And I feel like plenty of people have written about millennials feeling victimized, whatever. And so I feel like if you could just take control of what you can and leave the rest up to, in my opinion, God, or maybe someone else's opinion, to the universe, just do your work. Because that's ultimately the thing that makes you satisfied, is having some purpose to work towards.
Purpose is key. I say that all the time. If you don't have a purpose, you're kind of just wandering around and you become almost part of the pattern of the world. You don't have your own niche. So I'm all about purpose, and I agree with you 100%. That's definitely important. Well, Evan, thank you so much for being on the show today. We kind of went through the marketing that you do, your business, a little bit about your mindset. I did want to pick your brain about that because it is important so that we understand the person behind caffeine marketing, right? Because people like to work with people they like, know, and trust. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that was conveyed today, and I appreciate you. We'll definitely have to do another show in the future. We'll get into some more spiritual stuff probably if
Yeah,
you're
that'd
open
be
to
cool.
that, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's like one of my secret faves. I try not to broadcast it too much, but yeah, it's really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Evan, where can people contact you if they do want to utilize your services? And also, if you wouldn't mind, share your social media with them as well.
Yeah, so if you want to go to social media, probably go to Instagram. I try to really be diligent about responding to direct messages or comments there. That's just Evan B Knox. So Evan B Knox. That's like my whatever handle. But if you want to work with caffeine, or you want to get any more resources that I've got that are free to offer, go to caffeine.marketing, no .com, just caffeine.marketing, or evanknox.com. And I've got a free guide on how to build a winning sales funnel, kind of like what we mentioned earlier. Not the advertising bit, but everything else below that. It's like Legos. It'll teach you exactly how to do it step by step. It's a checklist.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.